Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video in our Scotland series, one that I'm pretty excited to share with you all today. Our explore takes us back in time to 1250, when this Scottish castle was at the height of its magnificence and beauty. It was named as an imposing castle ruin with a long and turbulent history. Those histories include a siege and a counter-siege, a possible forced marriage, and last but not least, treachery and treason. What more could you want? So join us as we delve deeper into the historical drama and walk towards these beautiful ruins, and let me share with you some of its history. Kildrummy Castle was once an imposing power base of the Earls of Mar, and its story begins with William, who was the Earl of Mar and Chamberlain of Scotland under Alexander II. He built the castle sometime around 1250, making the castle nearly 800 years old. The castle was intended to combine the Mars Empire's hold over northeastern Scotland, and was located where it could command important routes across the region, and this castle may have indeed replaced an earlier castle ruin that was built on a motte to the northeast. Edward I of England, who is also known as the Hammer of the Scots, is believed to have had paid at least 2 visits to the castle, not empty-handed, but armed with his masons, both in 1296 and 1303. Both times that he came here, he came as a guest on his way to the south, but armed his team to construct a better and more powerful gatehouse for the castle. The result of this is very similar to the gatehouse that Edward once built over in Wales at Harlech Castle. Kildrummy's history had numerous sieges and attacks all throughout, but only 8 were recorded. The first was in September of 1306, and it was after Robert the Bruce and a handful of his lieutenants infiltrated the castle. Whilst hiding inside a wagon that was carrying wood back to the castle, it was only when the driver and the guard began to unload the wood and take it to the storehouse that Bruce and his army snuck out of the wagon and into the main hall. They succeeded to stealthily kill several of the guards in the main hall before they opened the front gate to the rest of the Scottish warriors. It was then that the Scots had overwhelmed the English garrison, and Bruce had ordered his men to demolish and burn down the castle after they ransacked the place. This was something Bruce always had in mind for his strategy of capturing and neutralising other English castles. Initially, the new Scottish king sent his queen, daughter and brother to take refuge in Kildrummy Castle, but when faced with the advance of an English army under the Prince of Wales and the Earl of Pembroke, they fled further north. Following this capture, during the siege, Sir Neil Bruce, who was Robert's brother, was taken to Berwick, where he was hung, drawn and beheaded, and Bruce's wife, Queen Elizabeth, along with her daughter Marjorie, were captured nearby and taken to London as prisoners, where they were harshly treated, and the 12-year-old daughter was locked in a cage, forbidden to speak to anyone in the Tower's barbican. It was then that the castle was unusually dismantled by the English to prevent further use by the Scots, and this became a tactic adopted by the Bruce soon after. But it didn't prevent the castle being repaired or Kildrummy being attacked again. The castle was besieged again in 1335, 1363 and 1404. In 1507, Kildrummy was appointed to Lord Elphinstone, where the Elphinstones remodelled the entire interior of the castle, including the building of the Tower House which bears their name. In 1531 though, the castle was burned by troublemaker John of Lenturk, and a few years later the Erskines family finally came into their inheritance and were granted the castle and the title. And in 1654, Cromwell's army robbed and ruined the castle. And then further on in 1690, Jacobite troops burnt the castle before retreating, and the castle was abandoned until 1951, where it passed into state care and is now run by Historic Environment Scotland. We're now standing inside what was once one of the tallest and most architecturally sophisticated buildings in Scotland. The Snow Tower had influences from France, similar in the tower's design at the Château de Coucy. The continental ideas may have indeed been brought over to Scotland as influenced by Mary de Coucy, who married Alexander II in 1239. Built in the 13th century, it had 7 stories of spacious vaulted chambers and probably served as the main accommodation for the lord and his family. Centuries of stone robbers have reduced the castle to its foundations in many places, but it once had a tall curtain wall with 6 round towers at the corners and gate. The Snow Tower, a later 16th century tower house, was built by the Elphinstones to provide a more comfortable and modern residence. The courtyard itself had other buildings that were necessary for the proper functioning of a large household, buildings that would include a great grand hall, a beautiful chapel, and the building to many people's hearts, the kitchen. We stop off and look around the original bakehouse of the castle. It was built to provide much needed staples like bread and other baking items for the lord's household. The remains here are of 2 circular ovens that are on the right, and the circular opening on the left may have housed what was once the brewing vat for making the all-important beer. This was actually a normal drink for all but the lord and his family. It was amazing to walk inside what was once the Great Hall, that was built in the mid-1200s. The Great Hall was really the heart of the castle. It was the place to be, a place of grand and great feasts, as well as everyday business. Both servants and nobles ate together in the hall, and sadly some of the lower status servants would have slept here too. But from the 1400s onwards, nobles spent most of their time wining and dining their guests in private chambers. What I love about most great halls is their similar layout. This great hall would have been next to a kitchen for quick serving, and musicians would have had a stage above here, playing music for their guests. One of the more interesting rooms and buildings is inside the Wardens Tower. This tower is the most complete of all of the towers here, and it had 4 floors. At the base and where we're standing was a prison where the local troublemakers would await trial. Some gruesome discoveries here about possible sentences include mutilation of the ears, tongues, lips, and even gouging out of the eyes, and execution. And unlike many of the other medieval prisons, those that were held here had a toilet. Above this stood a guard room with arrow slits. The tower projects fully from its corner to command the steep gorge next to it. Its traditional name of the Wardens Tower indicates that it was the residence of the castle's warden, and more than likely, some of the other household servants too. From the room just above the prison, the guard would watch over the prisoners and work the portcullis over the castle's back entrance. Its two top floors have 3 sets of decorated double windows, rather than its typical arrow slits. These windows were designed for light to shine through, not for defensive tactics, suggesting that the interior of the 2 top floors of the Wardens Tower were purely for accommodation. Kildrummy is one of the few partially surviving examples of the shield-shaped design, and its ruins indicate that it was once one of the largest ever built in Scotland. Looking out onto a great ravine, the castle is an amazing opportunity to take in stunning views while exploring the site of era-defining battles. Some of the smaller bits that we think are surely important when visiting here is that the ruins of Kildrummy are very picturesque and atmospheric, so remember to pack that camera with you. The castle is well signposted and has plenty of parking spaces just off the road where the ticket offices are located, along with a visitor centre, toilets and disabled toilets, a shop and a handy area for you to refill those water bottles. The castle is all at ground level, apart from if you want to step inside and down some of the towers, and the courtyard is gravelled. So we would say that the castle is also disabled friendly, making it easy for everybody to come and enjoy. Another thing worth noting is that there is a small gentle walk to the castle itself, but it gives you plenty of time to see the approach and just take yourself back in time and imagine knights on their horses galloping up this path past you to get to the gates. So we really hope you've enjoyed your visit and coming along with us to Kildrummy Castle. We would really encourage you to head there yourself. And please don't forget to leave a like, a comment, and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. We've got another shout out today for Max D Expeditions, who has just become our newest Patreon. Thank you so much. Please head over and give this gorgeous family some love and support on their next adventures. Thank you to our other Patreons, and thank you so much for you all for watching. Till next time.